Will you all please join me in Gassho? And repeat the Nebutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm looking across the Hondo today, and I can't recognize some of the people in the Hondo today. It's wonderful because a lot of people are dressed up for Halloween. And I always look forward to this tradition. I actually look forward to this when I was myself was a Dharma school student growing up at the Sacramento Betsuri. I was always curious to see what my friends were going to be dressed up as. I would probably sometimes go as, it was funny, one time my costume was pretty lazy because I dressed up in a black suit, and that was the year that Men in Black came out. So I was like, I'm one of the Men in Black, so I wore sunglasses in the Hondo. But regardless, it is so much fun to see all of the Dharma school students dressed up in their costumes, and I'm certain if they're not dressed up now, they're probably going to dress up when they go downstairs to the social hall. And I can't wait to see if the adults themselves have costumes that they are going to be showcasing. Spoiler alert, Reverend Cyndi and I also are going to be dressed up in costumes a little bit later. So what happens when we dress up in a costume? Well, we become someone else. I also think that while we do become someone else, we sort of magnify or we highlight a part of who we are as well, depending on who we are. So we can see that Maya in the Hondo is dressed up like Gur, right, from Invader Zim. I bet you thought I didn't know that, huh? Yes. And who is Gur? Gur is a character from a cartoon series on Cartoon Network that I used to watch when I was a kid too, called Invader Zim. And Gur can be a little wild and can be a little crazy, but can also be a little mischievous, but ironically is also very wise at times as well, and kind of helps Zim along in his plans for world domination at times. But again, when we dress up for Halloween, we actually have a chance to sort of dress up as characters who we aspire to be as well. So I notice we have a spider person in the audience as well, and that's wonderful. Spider-Man and Spider-Girl are wonderful characters from Marvel. And when we think about this, right, we sometimes dress as the people who we admire, things that we think would be fun, but again, we dress up sometimes as people who we wish to be. We dress up as superheroes, especially for people who dress up like superheroes, right? Like Superman, Batman, Iron Man, any one of the Avengers. They all represent an idea or an ideal that we aspire to be. Sometimes we want to dress up a little more chaotic. We want to dress up a little more, a little more not confusing, but sometimes we dress up in costumes where people have to ask us, who are you? Or what is that? Or who are you this year? And we have to explain to them who we are. But again, we pick our costumes based on the things that we see. We pick our costumes based on the causes and conditions that we are exposed to. So when we watch a movie or when we see something that really affects us and really inspires us, we aspire to sometimes be that person. So why do I bring this up? Now think about this. Think about this. Shakyamuni Buddha, a historical Buddha. Who was, let's see. Mia, thank you very much for sitting in the front row today. So I'm just kidding. I'm going to call those students on at random at times. So, so don't think that sitting in the front row is going to exempt you from me being called on. Do you remember the name of Shakyamuni Buddha before he became the Buddha? Prince Siddhartha. Very good. Gotta speak up a little bit more so that everyone can hear you. But yes, Mia got that correct. Prince Siddhartha. Now, what can we imagine that Prince Siddhartha looked like? Prince Siddhartha looked like probably a very royal, regal prince. You've probably seen pictures of royalty before. You've seen like how beautiful their attire is. They have fancy robes. Sometimes they have a crown on their head. We saw what happened last month when the Queen passed away, and we saw all of that royal pomp and circumstance that happened in England. And then we saw King Charles take over the throne as well. All of that royalty. Now, here's an interesting story about Shakyamuni, or about Prince Siddhartha. So many of you know, Prince Siddhartha went out of 4 gates, or went out of the palace 4 times, or saw 4 sights. The first person he saw was an old man, which led to the truth, right, about the fact that we all age. The second thing he saw was a person who was very sick, deathly ill, very, very sick, which also leads to the truth that we will inevitably become sick sometimes. And the third thing that he saw was a funeral, showing us the ultimate truth about the impermanence of this life. But the last thing he saw, the 4th gate that he went through, was, anybody from the Dharma school? Let's see, how about Tamsin? What was the 4th thing that Shakyamuni, that Siddhartha saw in the 4th gate? That's okay, don't worry about it. Let's see, Ivan, how about you?
Afterlife?
I'm sorry?
Afterlife?
No, actually, but interesting, that's a good guess. That's a very good guess. What Prince Siddhartha saw when he went through the 4th gate, or the 4th time he went out, was a renunciant, a person who looked like a beggar, who was sitting in meditation and trying to free themselves of the desire of this life. Now, isn't that interesting? That Prince Siddhartha, royal and regal, right, with all of the jewels, everything that you could possibly want, sees a person who is, for all intents and purposes, like probably houseless, just wears like one probably hand-me-down robe, sitting in meditation, probably has very few, if no possessions at all. And yet, Siddhartha sees that and says, I aspire to be like this person. Very interesting. But it was because Prince Siddhartha realized that this life of royal regalness and getting everything that we want was definitely not going to bring him happiness, and was definitely not going to awaken him to the truth of things. Now, while Prince Siddhartha went through a lot of change and went through a lot of evolution, it took seeing that person and aspiring to be like that person to begin Prince Siddhartha on the spiritual path. So when we think about the Halloween costumes that we all dress in, right, we are influenced by what we see. We are influenced by what moves us, by what inspires us. And so for the last story of this particular Dharma talk, when we talk about how we dress and the costumes that we don for Halloween, I'd like us to go back to the story of Amida Buddha, and would like to sort of talk about how Bodhisattva Dharmakara, actually. Can the Dharma School students say that with me? Bodhisattva Dharmakara. Bodhisattva Dharmakara. Bodhisattva Dharmakara was the name of Amida Buddha before they became Amida Buddha. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. So Bodhisattva Dharmakara met another Buddha named, okay, Dharma School students, try to say this with me, okay? Named Lokesh Vararaja. Lokesh Vararaja. Lokesh Vararaja. Lokesh Vararaja.
Lokesh Vararaja.
Very good. So, naturally, Bodhisattva Dharmakara was inspired to see this Buddha. Okay? He stood in front of the Buddha and saw all of the qualities of a person who has spiritually been awakened. So naturally, Bodhisattva Dharmakara said to Lokesh Vararaja, I am going to not only be a Buddha like you, I am going to create this wonderful land where there is no suffering, where we can all attain enlightenment. And this is the story of Bodhisattva Dharmakara. And this reflects a lot on the things that we see and the things that we are inspired by. Now you all remember, we chanted the sutra, Sambutsuge today. Sambutsuge, Kogen, Gigi. This is Bodhisattva Dharmakara telling Lokeshvaraja, I am going to be just like you. You are inspiring, you are wonderful, you are brilliant, and you have awakened my desire to become a Buddha, just like you. So we have to think of, we think about it, right? Like when we choose the costumes that we want to dress in sometimes, we ask ourselves, what inspired me to dress like this today? Why did I choose this costume? What part of this personality is reflective on myself? And it's a wonderful thing to think about sometimes. But this brings us back to the truth about Buddhism, right? That we don our costumes, we don the things that we think reflects who we are. And then we also learn to live by the ideals who we think that we are. I see in the back, towards the back there, Mononoke Hime, Princess Mononoke. Yes, hello, thank you. And who is Princess Mononoke but a person who fights for the well-being and the health of the forest and the wild animals. So we probably have another person who's going to join Greenpeace in the future, so thank you very much. I really would like us all to enjoy our costumes and look at these wonderful things and also see the creativity that our Dharma School students have brought us all today, and of course, the adults as well. But I also want us to remember and reflect on why we choose the costumes that we do. Who inspired us? How do we look? Right? So for example, myself, right? Am I wearing a costume? Is this robe a costume? Well, it is and it isn't. It's definitely not something I chose to do because I thought, oh, this is something that I want to look like. I wear this because I was inspired by Shinran Shonin. So I thank you all very much for joining us today for our Halloween Dharma School service. I really look forward to celebrating with you. I really look forward to getting into my costume. I'm certain Reverend Cyndi is as well. And I won't keep you all too much longer because I know how eager you are to get off and start the festivities. So, with that in mind, will everyone please join me in that show? And repeat the Nambutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Will I have everyone please join me in God's will? The Buddha's light is supreme and radiance. Thus, Amida is called Buddha, Lord of blazing light. It dispels the darkness of the three courses of affliction, so take refuge in Amida, the great one worthy of offerings. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. Hello everyone, and happy Halloween. I hope everyone is excited to have some fun right after the service. I think it is always very nice to see adults getting into the spirit of Halloween for the children and possibly even for themselves. Since it is the eve of All Hallows Eve and the Mexican holiday of Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead, which follows soon afterwards, I thought it would be appropriate to connect the topics of ghosts and remembering those who have passed and talk about the realm of hungry ghosts. But first, I would like to talk about the quote I just used. Today, I have chosen a quote from the Hymns of the Pure Land, or Jodo Wasan, written by Shinran Shonin, the founder of Jodo Shinshu. The subtitle for this section that I am putting from is called The Hymns Based on Gathas in Praise of Amida Buddha, which is based on writings by Tuan, the first of the Chinese masters. In this hymn that I quoted, Shinran Shonin summarizes Tuan's praising of one of the 12 aspects of the light of Amida Buddha by saying that it dispels the darkness of the three courses of affliction. The three courses of affliction are the lower three of the 6 realms in Mahayana Buddhism. These lower 3 realms are those of animals, hungry spirits or ghosts, and hell. This part of the Wasan might also allude to Amida Buddha's first two vows. The first vow, stated and perfected by Bodhisattva Dhammakara, the being who became Amida Buddha, says, if when I attain Buddhahood, there should be hell, the realm of hungry spirits, or the realm of animals in my land, may I not attain the perfect enlightenment. This first vow states that Amida Buddha creates a land in which the lower three realms do not exist. This also means that this world of samsara, this world of birth and death that we live in, is not the same as Amida Buddha's land of bliss. The second vow that was stated and perfected says, if when I attain Buddhahood, the humans and devas in my land should, after their death, return once more to the three evil realms, may I not attain the perfect enlightenment. This second vow reassures those that are born in Amida Buddha's land of bliss never fall into the lower three realms of hell, hungry spirits, and animals. These two vows ensure that a sentient being who takes refuge in Amida Buddha never fall into three lower realms. This is because Amida Buddha's light of wisdom and compassion dispels the heavy karma that would allow a sentient being, that would initially allow a sentient being to fall into the realm of animal, hungry ghosts, and hell. This heavy karma is dispelled by taking refuge in Amida Buddha and saying the name Nam Amida. Now that I have gone over some doctrinal things, let us dive into understanding the realm of hungry ghosts. So the hungry ghost realm is one of the 6 realms Mahayana Buddhists recognize as the places sentient beings transmigrate to upon our death from this world of samsara, in this world of samsara. Out of these 6 realms, the hungry ghost realm is one that beings definitely do not want to transmigrate to. The beings that reside in this realm are described to look like emaciated beings with small necks and mouths, and a huge bloated belly. The hungry ghosts are never satiated, as their mouths and necks are too small to allow food to pass, and even if they did, the food would always turn to ash when it reached their mouth. Thus, the realm is called hungry ghosts, because their hunger for food is never satisfied. This is why this realm is for those who in previous lives were ruled by greed and thus did little to nothing to try to attain good karma to reach higher realms. We, as Shinto Buddhists, do observe a holiday in which we talk about the realm of hungry ghosts. This holiday is Obon due to the story of Moggallana, one of the many disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha who had the ability to travel to the other 5 realms as we are currently presently in the human realm. As you can see, I put up some pictures of Tacoma's past Obons and bazaars probably, where you can see people dancing, eating, and having a good time. As a summary of the story of Moggallana, the disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha travels through the 6 realms in search of his mother who had recently passed and finds her in the hungry ghost realm, where Moggallana witnessed her trying to eat, but could not, as the food would turn to ash when it reached her mouth. Moggallana then immediately went to Shakyamuni Buddha and asked what he could do to help his mother, who was trapped in this horrible realm. The Buddha then instructs that Moggallana to hold a feast for all the monks in the Sangha. Only then would his mother be able to satiate her hunger in the other realms. Thus, Moggallana hosts the feast, and once it has finished, he travels back to the hungry ghost realm and sees his mother is no longer in the realm of hungry ghosts. Moggallana is so happy that he begins to dance with joy. The dancing of Shakyamuni Buddha's disciple is what inspired many Buddhist communities to observe what we Shinto Buddhists call Obon, where in the United States, The holiday has become a time of dancing, music, food, and community. This means Obon is not only to worship our ancestors and all those who have passed on, but also to look toward the Dharma for guidance during hard times. Even though Obon has passed this year, I think it is impossible to not have one's thoughts on those who have passed around this time of year. Halloween and Dia de Muertos remind us of death and those who have passed. And because of this, we worry like Mohamana. If the person we know has fallen into one of these three lower realms of hell, hungry ghosts, and animals. But as I explained earlier, by taking refuge in Amida Buddha and by saying Nama Minamitsu, one is not able to fall into the lower realms and are instead born in Amida Buddha's land of bliss. Upon being born there, our loved ones turn into Buddhas and return back to this world to guide us. Thus, we are sure that our ancestors are not born into the hell, hungry ghosts, or animal realms. In conclusion of my Dharma talk, I would like us to think upon Amida Buddha and put our hands together in Basho in gratitude to the infinite wisdom and compassion, which does not allow us to fall into the lower realms of hell, hungry ghosts, and animals. So please put your hands together in Basho. Namo Minamitsu.
Namo Minamitsu.
Namo Minamitsu. Namo Minamitsu. Namo.